Let me tell you an incredible story of transformation. One that changed not just a man, but the course of history itself. It's about a guy named Saul, who later became known as Paul, and trust me, this isn't your typical name change story. Picture this, Jerusalem around 2,000 years ago. Saul was basically what you'd call a religious zealot, and he absolutely despised the early Christians. We're talking about someone who didn't just disagree with them, he actively hunted them down, threw them in prison, and even approved of their executions. He was feared, and for good reason. But here's where things get wild. One day Saul was traveling to Damascus, planning his next persecution of Christians. Suddenly, a blinding light from heaven knocked him right off his horse, and then, get this, he heard a voice. "Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me?" It was Jesus himself speaking to him. Can you imagine? The very person whose followers he had been persecuting was now talking to him directly. Talk about an awkward conversation. Saul was literally struck blind by this encounter. For 3 days he couldn't see a thing, couldn't eat, couldn't drink. He was completely shaken to his core. But this wasn't just about losing his sight. It was about gaining a whole new vision. A follower of Jesus named Ananias, and yes, this guy was basically walking into the lion's den, came to Saul, laid hands on him, and his sight was restored. But more than his physical sight, Saul gained spiritual sight. He saw everything differently now. And this is where Saul becomes Paul. The transformation wasn't just in his name, it was complete. The man who once breathed threats and murder against Christians became their most passionate advocate. The persecutor became the persecuted. The hunter became a shepherd. Think about it. This is like if the world's biggest critic of something suddenly became its greatest champion. It'd be like if the head of a massive oil company suddenly became the world's leading environmental activist. That's how dramatic this change was. Paul went on to write a huge portion of the New Testament, traveled thousands of miles spreading the message of Jesus, and faced imprisonment, beatings, and eventually death for the very cause he once tried to destroy. Talk about a complete 180. You know what's really amazing about this story? It shows that no one is beyond transformation. If someone like Saul, a man literally known for his hatred and violence, could become Paul, one of the most influential spiritual leaders in history, then anyone can change. Sometimes the most powerful critics can become the most passionate advocates. Sometimes our greatest opponents can become our strongest allies. And maybe that's the biggest lesson from this story. Never write anyone off as a lost cause. Because sometimes the most incredible transformations happen to the most unlikely people.